The new day at Monsters Inc. that had listed and lasted more than an hour when the CEO arrived. Celia met him at the door with tons of messages, and Terry, the Raw's replacement, had paperwork for him to fill out. In a way, Sully was happy about it. If only he kept himself busy during the day, perhaps he could manage to think about his bad experiences in Randall's apartment that morning. After he had gone out through his messages and filed out the paperwork, and even cleaned his desk, Sully decided to visit one of the laugh floors that the thought of Randall was still wouldn't let go, and the blue monster thought he needed to be cheered up. And where could he get out of that? If not the laugh floor? He closed the door of his own office and started walking towards the floor Mike was on. There was something going on. If Mike couldn't get him to laugh, then he could always count on George Sanderson, who always messed things up for himself. He tripped over and fought like 5 times a day every day. Mike just had left the kids' room when Sully entered the laugh floor. He was relieved that the CEO was still there, with all of his limbs intact, and left of his station for a minute to talk to his boss and his good friend. "Hey, Sul, glad to see ya. Still in one piece? How did it go?" Sully tried to smile back at Mike, but doubted and it looked very convincing. "Fine." "Sully?" Mike narrowed his eye. "Okay, he threw me out." "Told you so." Mike's expression then showed himself with brief satisfaction, and Sully didn't take it. He immediately tried to defend himself. "He was just tired, that's it. I'm going back there when he's feeling better." "Sully, please don't. You tried talking to him and it didn't work. It was nice for the effort, but now would you just stop? You would have seen him." "Sully, leave it. You tried. It didn't work. Leave the guy alone." Mike sounded as if he reached a conclusion. Sully sighed. Maybe Mike was right. Maybe he should just leave Randall alone. That was clearly the lizard that wanted to, but the image of thin, exhausted creature had blunted to Sully's head, and he couldn't get it off his mind, but he chose not to tell Mike. Instead, he started talking about work. "How's it going there? Did anyone miss me or anything?" "Nah, not really. It's been quiet. George Sanderson fell down again and hurt his toe, though." Mike pointed towards a nearby bench, where George sat with a big bag of ice on his foot. Sully had even strangled a laugh. Typical. "Wanna watch TV and watch me watch this kid laugh?" Mike was on his way to the station and on to the next door. "No, I'm sorry, Mike. I have to get some coffee. I still don't feel fully awake here." "Okay, see you at lunch." Mike continued on his door, and Sully headed towards the closest coffee machine. It was around the corner, and he suddenly heard someone call his name, but a blurtly happy tone. "Ali!" He then looked up to see that there was some children in daycare program were on a trip around the factory, and some of them were running towards them was Rex. The little monster smiled with his entire face, waved eagerly, and Sully left his hand to wave back. "Ali!" Rex repeated as he jumped on the CEO's leg and squeezed it in a hug. Sully felt a little uncomfortable since there were other monsters around looking, but he chose to bend down and hug the little orange monster back. "Hey, you. What's your name?" Rex looked at Sully with anticipation as he pulled his tie. Let me see." Sully pretended he had a hard time remembering it. "Rex, was it?" "Yeah, you know me. You were with me and Mama. Me, name. Ali, come with me." Rex took a hold of Sully's hand and tried to pull him over to the rest of the daycare group, where he talked consistently. "Ali, can you visit me today? Can you come over for my birthday? I'm free and I'm big. You know I'm big. Hey, wanna hear me count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. "Rex, don't disturb Mr. Sullivan." The daycare teacher took a hold of Rex's hand to try to get him off of Sully. "He's at work." "He and I are friends." "That's very nice, but now you have to let go of him. We're going back to the daycare to eat, and then it's nap time." "No!" Rex wouldn't let go of Sully's leg, and the CEO had to help the teacher loosen the grip on the little kid's grip. "You better listen to the teacher, Rex." "Can you visit me again?" Tears started to gather up in Rex's big green eyes. Sully smiled down and handed him over to the teacher. "Sure, I'll come some other time. See you around, mate." He waved at Rex, who waved back and held his teacher's hand in the other, dried his eyes with the third, and tried to push the teacher away with the fourth. "That's Rex Randall's nephew." "Geez, Sully, is there something going on in your life at the moment? Isn't it about Randall?" "Why you were there, Mike?" Sully let out a deep sigh. "I forgot to tell you. I was eating lunch with Celia today, so I won't be able to meet you. I am going to be taking her out tonight, so then the place will all be yours. Perhaps you might want to invite Randall over or something." "Mike!" "Okay, I'm sorry, but the place is yours, so you can do whatever you want, okay?" "Fine, thanks for telling me. Have fun with Celia. Thanks. Mike headed back on the lab floor, and Sully went back to his office, and he could hear Mike's self-composed love song on his way. The next day went by with the usual routines, and Sully kept himself busy in his office. It helped him keep his mind off of Randall almost. He ate lunch with some friends at the factory, and then even joined them in a game of cards. Everything was perfectly normal until he ran into Sophie on his way back from the cafeteria. Sully, hey, how did it go last night? What? Your wallet. Did you find it? Yeah. Sully had forgotten about the reason why he went back to Randall's apartment. No problem. I'm so glad you found it. Don't you just hate it when things go missing like that? It happens to me all the time, and Rex hid my keys a couple days ago, and... The keys suddenly he remembered. Sophie was probably wanted her back her key. Sophie? Yes? I left Randall's key at home. That's okay. I don't really need it at the moment. Sully was surprised himself on why the earth he was lying. He had the keys in his office, and he could have just given back to Sophie right now. But then he just wouldn't be able to go back and check on Randall. He doubted Randall would open the door if he rang the doorbell, and he wanted to see how the lizard was doing. He didn't exactly know why, though. Are you sure, Sophie? Yes, take your time. I'll have to wait a little before I go back there anyway. I'm quite busy at the moment. Thanks. No problem, she smiled at the same time. A warm smile had grown up like so much. By the way, I talked to Rex this morning. He's your #1 fan now. He talked about you, nothing but you, last night. Sully smiled and let out a laugh. Randall's nephew is really something. He said goodbye to Sophie and headed back to his office. He thought about the key, and he wondered that if he really wanted to go back to Randall's place to try to talk to him. Mike would be gone tonight anyway, so perhaps he would give it another go. It was late in the afternoon, and Randall ate cereal, dry cereal, since he had no milk. He had searched through the entire kitchen, and the only food that hadn't expired was a box of creature crisps. It was dry, but very crumbly, and it seemed to stick to his tongue and plated as he ate it. It was miserable, and only made him feel even hungrier. Being back in Monstropolis sure wasn't as grand as he had pictured it, but it was like a prison. And not just any other prison, he could get visitors. Someone suddenly knocked on the door, and Randall looked up. He didn't even bother opening it. He heard someone unlocking the door from the outside. He cursed camouflage and climbed back up to the ceiling, just in case. Hey, Randall! Sullivan's voice sounded even more insecure than ever that he had done before, and his steps were more determined. He walked straight to the living room, and then asked again, Randall? Randall sighed and reappeared and climbed back down to the couch. What part of get out is that you don't understand, Sullivan? Sully didn't answer at the moment. He just looked at the purplish-grayish creature on the couch. But he didn't look terrible. But, of course, at the most, he did. At a moment of complete silence followed, Randall placed his hand on one of the sofa cushions, in case if he felt like throwing something. Are you feeling better now? Sully's voice still sounded insecure, and worried expression caused Randall to take another look in another direction. A desire had thrown the cushion of Rose, a new pause. Like I said, I just wanted to check on you, Sully said, still looking at trying to catch his eyes. You don't look so good. What has happened? How long have you been here? No answer. Randall was still looked away. How did you get back? Randall still didn't turn his head with his expression still blank. Do you want to talk about it? Hell no. If you're still not feeling good, I can come back some other day. Do you want me to leave? I think we've made it perfectly clear already. Randall's answer caused Sully to jump and hadn't gotten to the lizard not to do so, and saw the answer a small victory, even though it wasn't exactly cheerful. Okay then, I'll leave you alone. Sully then turned around to leave, when all of a sudden a feeling of sadness came over him and surprised him. He knew he wanted to find out more about Randall and how he'd gotten back, but he hadn't been expecting to feel this way. He took a last look at Randall as he opened the door. Be safe now. Sully stepped out into the hallway and turned around again. Randall cursed. Why couldn't he just leave? Oh, and by the way, Randall, you should really eat something else than just cereal, Sully pointed out at the creature crisp on the table. No offense, but you don't look so good on how much weight you have lost. I would like to see you try to get a hold of food when you can, and step outside the door. Why can't you just go outside? Aren't you hurt? With a veil of worry appeared in Sully's eyes, and Randall hurried to explain. He thought of that if he hadn't, Sullivan wouldn't probably have carried him to the hospital. I'm fine, but I'll rather stay hidden from the police. The apartment is one thing, but jail is something else. Why don't you think that someone would just take you to jail? Sullivan spoke with convincing surprise in his voice, and for the first time ever, Randall found himself actually interested in what he had to say. I know what I did, Sullivan, but no one else does. The confused look in Randall's eyes caused Sully to re-enter the apartment and take a couple of steps towards him, which caused Randall to take a couple steps back. There was no need to get too close. Sully looked straight at Randall as he explained, "You're not wanted by the police, Randall. It's a common knowledge that Waternoose was the mastermind behind the scandal. He confessed everything in the scare simulator, and we got it on tape, and he's going to prison. And although your name came up during the trial, you're not charged for anything. You were just mentioned as Waternoose's sidekick, alongside with Fungus, and Fungus defended you. He said that you were threatened to help Waternoose, and had nothing to do with it." Randall could hardly believe the words he was saying. Fungus had defended him? He wasn't one of Metropolis's most wanted after all. And by the way, Sully continued, Mike and I even got a little trouble with the judge for illegally banishing you to the human world. Apparently you were supposed to talk it over the authorities before sending someone through the one-way door. Did you know that? No. Well, there really wasn't anything else to say. Randall couldn't believe that he had been cleared without even being away. And Sully clearly misunderstood what was on his mind. "You're a free monster, Randall. You can do whatever you want. I want you to leave." Randall then turned his head again. He was looking at Sullivan. "Well, in a minute." Sully's voice suddenly got more serious tone as he stepped back into the hallway. "I just want you to tell me the first thing I'll do is buy yourself eat some decent food." "Okay, will you leave me alone then?" "Sure, I'll just want you to know that is, and I really think you should get something to eat." "Okay, I'll buy some food tomorrow. Happy? And you'll eat?" "Well, duh." "Good. Take care, Randall." And that was all Sully had managed to say before the door was shut on his face. His vision time was basically over, although the purple monster was angry right now. Sully smiled as he started to walk home, and he had gone this 10 times than his morning visit, at least.